So, you've noticed that every morning we come on, we're drinking coffee, and sometimes our coffee cups say something, and sometimes they don't. Product placement is one of the best ways to get your business out there. So if you would like a nice and expensive way to get some product placement with your company, send us a mug. And instead of drinking out of my plain mug, I'll drink out of your mug and give your business a shout out.
As long as it's not green.
As long as it's not green. That is true. Yes, because then it'll be see-through.
Yes.
To me. Oh, and if you make a mistake and send one, we'll still shout it out. It'll just look like I'm drinking.
It would almost be cool if like the whole mug was green except for the logo, and then like we're just sitting here sipping out your logo, and that's it.
Now I feel like we have to practice.
I know.
So reach out to Cam Collaborative, and we will be happy to give you the information on how to get your mug to us. Be happy to let you drop it by, or mail it in. But we'd love to use your mugs.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Is that it?
Okay, yeah, that's good. Good enough. Welcome back to the Healthy Business Podcast. I'm Ty Kane with American Business Engine, and with me today, as always,
Jessica Tolliver with Cam Collaborative.
How are you?
I'm good.
Good. Yes. You're like, I'm good.
I'm good. Well, I was thinking that you were going to segue, and then you kind of looked at me and thinking, I should segue.
Is like
the segue is the event last night. I expect
more out of you when I ask, like, how are you?
I don't know really answer that question.
Just give me the truth. You know what I mean?
I'm good.
Like, that's what I want people to do. Don't give me the standard answers. Yeah.
No, I had a lot of fun last night, and I think it went really well. I got questions from the audience. I think I answered them. People seemed to not hate me. I thought it was great.
No, it's very good. So last night, if you guys aren't aware, it was the first podcast convention for Arkansas we hosted. Jessica was on the first panel, went really well, and getting a lot of great feedback.
Excellent.
Since then, of course, people tagging you in photos and stuff whenever you're, the morning after, you host a big event, and you're like, oh, I hope everything went well. Then the morning after, it's like if people are tagging you and then they're saying, hey, last night was great, and they're using it as a promotional opportunity, then you did pretty well. If you don't see anything, people don't want to talk about it anymore, maybe change a few things up. Yeah.
But you got those tags, right?
Yeah, I did.
Excellent.
We did. We got those. So, yeah, it was a lot of fun. Lot of work. We talked about that before. Yeah, a lot of work going into it. Oh, man. Trying to future-proof, trying to prevent things from happening, and I learned a lot from last night.
Good.
And how can we do it better for next year? Mm-hmm. I think overall everything was great. There was just a couple of minor things that I would definitely like to change up, and one big technical thing that was nobody's fault. It was just faulty equipment. So I tried to capture the stage itself from 3 different angles.
I did set all the cameras up.
From all the cameras, right? And so I had these really nice cameras and all this stuff. I did Blackmagic pocket cams in 4K, and then we had a 6K. They were all hooked up to the very same type of external hard drive. Mm-hmm. So they were recording rather than to an SD chip, they were recording to an external hard drive, and so everything was recording. It even showed that it was recording, and the whole event was 3 hours and 30 minutes long or so. Mm-hmm. It even showed the time. But then there was a big red exclamation mark on the screen for 2 of the cameras, the 4Ks.
Oh, no.
Yes. So it turns out got no data whatsoever from that. Yeah. But one camera did capture it. Thank God we had 3 cameras.
That's excellent.
One of them caught some of it. What I was hoping to catch some so we can make chop it up and make a promotional video with multiple shots and stuff. And
well, good thing you got all those tags, because now you can go rip some of those videos and still make that promotional thing happen.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. And then the audio, so we tapped right into the audio system, that they already had there, and plugged it into what's called a Zoom recorder, and it's like a professional recorder for that. So that was good. So we've got all the audio.
Excellent.
Great. So we can.
Well, you can audio over stills.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. But now we have the stage too, so now we'll have to do a little mix and try to see where it, how to make it all fit together where it's not a cheesy like slideshow video. You know what I mean?
Right.
But also do some voiceover recording and that type of stuff too.
I'll have our video that we took also sent over to you.
Oh, good.
So
I forgot that Elena did that. Yes, thank you. Yes. And then some of the other, panelists one panelist had her own media team there with her. Mm-hmm. Front row and center recording for her, so that was great. So I'll be able to use that too. Mm-hmm. And then there's, other people in the crowd that were filming. I'm hoping they post it or share it with me or something.
I'm sure.
Yeah, so that would be great to be able to splice all that together. But overall, yeah, I think people got the point last night of like what was happening. Mm-hmm. I think beforehand, when it's something so new, well, like podcasting's not new at all, right? But in Arkansas, people have been doing it for a while, and there's a larger crowd that has heard of podcasting but weren't really aware of it. A lot of people came last night. They were interested in what is podcasting and how do I get started, and want to hear from people that have been doing it for a while. What platform should I use? What,
yes.
How do I choose my content? What camera? And that type of thing. So a lot of people got that information from a wide variety of people, and it turns out everybody does it differently.
Yes.
Everybody does it differently.
Everybody does it differently, and I hope that the takeaway was that everybody does do it differently, and it may be right for them, and you have to figure out what's right for you.
Well, something I didn't hear last night, was what I consistently heard was that everybody does it differently, right? I use this platform, and then I use this one to distribute my podcast, blah, 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 blah. But nobody said this is the way to do it, and this is the way you should be doing it. They were all open to other programs. They were there to learn from each other too. And so hearing, wow, maybe I should try that platform out because I haven't heard of that part.
Well, and that's the thing that I think that you were trying to achieve with the convention was more of developing a community. So bringing people together that are either very versed, have a great history, seasoned professional, and somebody who's just playing with the idea.
Right,
and putting those in the same room and letting them learn from each other. So the new person comes in and says, I heard this podcast, or I heard this idea, or I read this article that the person who's been doing it forever maybe was a little set in their ways and didn't know about, and vice versa. So I think you really achieved that goal. Okay,
well, I appreciate that. Yeah, funny enough, I heard several times, people throughout the night, they were going up there as panelists, they were speaking and talking about, I'm looking around the room and I'm seeing some of the other panelists, and it's kind of weird how I had no idea that they were, but they were apparently some of the first guests that they had interviewed on their own podcast, and now they've got their own, and seeing how successful they've been with it, and it's like it was I don't know, sort of a photograph moment, you know what I mean, where it's
it's kind of get you in the feels a little bit, because it is that community. You start out and you don't know what you're doing, you find some people, you get your little group, and you start to grow, and then one day you end up at a convention like that and you realize, hey, they had me as an interview and that was my first day, or I remember that was my first interviewee, or all those things, and then that really also tightens the community.
Well, I think the guy that shared the panel with you, Frank, from the Real Underground, one of the things he was talking about was the hustle. You know, that's part of it, and I think that we get so caught up in the hustle because we're we got to do the next thing and this thing and this thing, and we got to post to all these channels, and we've got to split these clips up into stories. So you're worried about all the things, and then time goes by. We've recorded, this is what, 32?
I'm excited.
So 32 episodes now.
But,
yeah, so it's been about a year that we've been recording.
Oh wow!
Yeah, exactly. So that's it. like when you take a step back, and then they were in that situation, they've been working so hard at what they were doing that they weren't fully realizing, it was just a moment of clarity last night. We're looking around wow, look what we've done. I didn't even realize this was happening. You're so caught up in the momentum of the hustle. You don't really realize the impact that it's having, the change that's happening, because
in the community around you, which is the goal. But the goal is to get your ideas out there. And I think I did see a lot of that where people were, this is how I started, this is what blah blah blah, and suddenly they're talking about, I've got this audience, and people in the audience know, I listen to your podcast, and all these little conversations are happening where people were realizing they actually are affecting the community around them, which, again, back to the point, is the goal.
For sure. I know you had to leave last night. What time did you see, well, I don't know, which panel did you leave during?
The mother-daughter.
Okay, so
driving-
Hillary and
Yes.
Bridget. Okay, and then Irvin Camacho. Yeah, yeah, they were great. And
Yeah, I was lucky enough to have a moment to be able to chat with them before the event.
Yeah.
So I didn't miss much.
good. Yeah.
I mean, I obviously missed this.
I didn't miss much.
Well, no, I still got to engage with them.
You still had a conversation.
Yes,
there
and
and talk about-
we did learn a lot, and he's in Northwest Arkansas, and so he told me about his beginnings and things like that. So
Yeah.
he seems to be very excited about what you're doing, as am I. But he seemed to be very excited because that's not available where he is, and he really likes the
Right.
idea. So he may be, I don't know, collaborating with you with something up there.
Yeah, I'm actually supposed to be on his podcast today.
Excellent.
So. Yeah, we contacted him last night. We were, we had some hotel rooms that were donated to us and all that stuff, and so we just stayed here. Rather, it was like we can drive 40 minutes and go home, or we can just load all this camera equipment up and just go to the hotel
Absolutely.
right over here. But anyways, yeah, my wife really liked it. She's been following him for a long time. She's in the political realm and all that stuff. And she was like, see if he just wants to come and hang out.
Right.
This is the after party at our hotel room. And so, yeah, he just came over and we had really good discussions about, podcasting and like where Arkansas is going and like a lot of different conversations. But yeah, he's taken the opportunity to, while he's here in Little Rock, to book several episodes, and he's going to film several episodes today.
Nice.
And so I was like, that's a good lesson to learn. You know what I mean? Whenever you go to a new place, try to book as many, interviews as you possibly can, if that's your format.
Right.
But no, going back to the panels, I tried to match people, right? When I'm coming up with this list of panelists,
I was wondering because I'm like,
Yes.
okay,
Yes.
Here's my co-guest person.
It's so seemingly very strange, but everything was very strategic. Okay. So I tried to pair people that did not have the same type of genre of podcast, right?
Okay.
And
I didn't want to.
They record differently and very different, and tried to pair as many different differences as possible, right?
Yeah. You want to see the yin and yang on stage.
Yes, exactly. So I want to see, somebody that's a minority be with somebody that is, in the majority, I guess you'd say, but also somebody that does film that's paired with somebody that does something completely different. And like your panel, right? Of course, obviously we do this podcast.
Yeah.
So. Healthy
Really?
business. We do this. This is a podcast.
Hey.
We haven't just been going in this room and talking once a week for no reason at all. And so our format being, based on, things that business owners go through and that type of thing. And then pairing that with somebody like the Real Underground Radio, which is like mostly, hip hop music and black culture and that type of thing. So it's not really something we hit on, and what we talk about is not really something they hit on, unless it's very specifically about, something that they can already cover.
Right.
So getting those two voices in there to answer questions and to riff off each other, and I think it went really well, because I think what, I've gathered from feedback afterwards, of people that were in the VIP section and people that were panelists, they've told me, they were like, I really like these pairings because it kind of shows that, even though we're so different, we have a thread that connects us. You know what I mean?
Very much so.
We definitely have grounds that we can relate on, above just being podcasters. You know what I mean? But also our views sort of match on these certain things, and it's okay to be different. And diversity is very cool, and like it brought perspectives, and like I was seeing it in the audience. I was trying to
it was
check
really
eyes.
great. We would get a question, and we would both answer it accurately and helpfully and differently.
Yeah, exactly. But neither one of you were wrong.
Exactly.
Yeah. You're both right.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah. So that was great. And then pairing. Last night was sort of strange. I didn't realize this, but two people that I paired, apparently they had some issues before.
Interesting.
Did not know that. Did not even know that they knew each other.
Okay.
Right? And so they get on stage, and then they're having these conversations just like we're talking about. They're answering the questions and trading off, and they really hit it off on stage. It was like all these issues were just absolved during the making of that panel. Like on stage live, they sort of just squashed all their problems and like hugged afterwards. It was crazy.
Excellent.
So I really enjoyed that. So
well, and that's part of the building a community. And if you look at other genres and different things, I mean, look at Comic-Con. This started out with some people that are interested in these comics, and then they find other people and they're interested, and they start building this community. And that's what podcasting is. Yep. And it's still in the infancy stages as far as that community building, but the community builds bridges. And having that common thread can get people on the same page and take a moment to realize that there is a commonality. And that's a good thing.
Right.
So I think that it's great that you're really getting in on this, and we're starting to get some traction in Arkansas with other podcasters and starting to build that community.
For sure. And several times, throughout the night, people sort of applauded the event. And of course, me too. But I mean, it's not about me. So that's why I try to take myself out of it as much as possible. I wouldn't have hosted it if it was possible for me. But I was like, okay, I know what my vision is, and I can't explain it great enough to somebody to where they can get in that position and be able to do what I need them to do. So I was like, okay, so even if it's just the first year, I've got to host this thing. I'm not a great host. I found that out. I'm like, I can do great in networking situations where we're hosting like networking events, right? Those are easy. I can go around from circle to circle from all this group
networking and controlling the room are two different things.
Exactly. So I've got this group of 13 people. I can sweep right in and have everybody's attention. Gathering a room of people, most of them don't know who you are. It's a lot harder. Yeah, very difficult. And so I was like, this is not really my thing. I was realizing when I was up there, I was like, I've either got to practice and do it really well, or I've got to just find somebody that can do it very well next year. Yeah.
Perhaps you will.
Yeah. So,
well, I had a good time.
I did too. I mean, it was fun. I enjoyed it. But yeah, the variety of voices, that was something that really struck me last night, was like how well everybody hit it off. And I don't know if you saw Leo and Bo when they got up there. So Leo and Bo, like they got up there, and I can't wait for this recording to come out, like all the audio that we did capture. Those two acted immediately, like they got up there like they were an entertainment act. Like they had been podcasting for 20 years together. And like immediately, like riffing off each other, and it's like a professional, like you can see those comedy skits with two different people, Laurel and Hardy, that type of thing.
Who's up first?
It's exactly what they were doing, and like it was just so natural for them to bounce off each other and like make jokes and keep the crowd live and interacting and stuff. So it's amazing.
So things that you can learn from people that are more versed and more professional in the arena is that ability to put important sound in silence, which is the riffing, which is the back and forth, and being able to anticipate that coming and having something to say besides
Yeah, and trying to fill that silence. Because one of the parts I definitely wanted to do was ask questions to get you started, but you're a podcaster, you should be good at talking, right? So go ahead and carry this through. Just tell us what we think that we should know about your content and what you learned about podcasting. I shouldn't have to prompt you with a question, and then you just say yes, and then that's it. Right?
Yes.
And so luckily that didn't happen. There was a couple times when I would ask the crowd, because you can't always depend on the audience to be forthcoming with questions. They probably have questions in their mind, but they don't want to be the one to stand up and be like, hey, I got a question for you.
Well, and that's part of it, is these people are interested in podcasting, and they're also afraid that they're going to be shunned for their voice.
Yes.
So creating that environment where you were very open to the questions, you made it very comfortable for people who might be a little less comfortable in those situations. You made it comfortable for them, and they were able to stand up. I heard several people stand up and ask questions that you could tell they were nervous, and they really wanted to know the information. And had it not been that comfortable environment, they would have just sat there in the audience and let it go by.
Yeah, for sure. And so if the audience didn't ask, let's have some questions from the audience. Nobody answered, and then I would ask them something you I thought of, because
you always
I just
want
to keep it going.
Exactly.
Yeah,
It's
no dead air. We don't want dead air. Right. Dead air just means people get bored and uncomfortable, and it's just awkward and everybody in the room together. So trying to make people comfortable, huge part of hosting any kind of event. So, yeah. Other part I learned, have enough microphones. Have enough microphones. I thought that we were going to have 3 or 4, and no, we've got 2. And I was like, oh God. My panels are made up of up to 3 people at a time. And so they're just having to pass the mic, and then I'm asking the questions. And so
and there was no one in the audience to bring the mic to the question asker, so the questions had to be repeated. And if you didn't have someone who was used to answering questions, they wouldn't repeat the question.
So I noticed, so I was like, okay, so this setup is not meant for what we're using it for, right? I guess they're so used to events there being just...
No, they're all like that. They just haven't... I've been to several events there that were very similar with a panel type thing, and they just haven't upgraded their systems because that's not their goal, not their focus.
Okay.
Their focus is to get people to come in and do the shared workspace, and they also have events, but investing in the technology to make the event better isn't their thing.
Okay. I don't know. Maybe some things will change because they're owned by Windrock, whatever, the Windrock International. Well, they're changing their headquarters. They're getting out of their new headquarters now, and they're turning the hub into their new headquarters.
Nice.
And so Hub's about to get a facelift.
Cool.
And some different things happening. So maybe they'll
if it becomes something that's important to them, for sure.
Right. If that's a focus for them, if they want to still do events and that type of stuff there. So.
And you also now have some ideas about one items on your checklist. So when you go to host the event next year, if this isn't the right venue, you know what you're looking for. You can go in and say, do you have X amount of microphones? Do you have a coffee maker? I don't know, whatever you need.
Coffee maker. Yeah. Was that what you were looking for last night?
No.
I was like, because we didn't have coffee.
No, I was just thinking about things that I know that when I first started teaching, I had an idea of what I thought a class was going to look like. And having been to continuing education, I kind of knew some things that I wanted. But it took doing it to realize, a sign-in sheet would have been helpful.
Right.
And you just that checklist keeps growing. So those are things that you're going to put on the checklist for next time.
Yeah.
And then when you select your venue, if it's not the same one,
right,
at least you know the questions to ask.
Yeah, for sure. So let me ask you, because I wasn't up in the VIP area, right? I happened to be on the floor. So what was the atmosphere like there? How were the panelists? Were they interacting with each other?
Oh, yes. There was not a person standing around looking like no one would talk to them. There was no little person in the corner hiding. Everyone was definitely engaging, passing out cards, talking about their podcast, watching what was going down below, talking about the event. It was very, very VIP.
Okay. Good deal. How was the food?
I didn't eat the food.
You didn't eat the food?
Don't eat food.
That's shame. Shame on you.
Wow.
It was good. Luckily Tara saved me some of the brisket.
Okay.
Yeah.
I saw the food. The food looked amazing.
Oh my God.
It looked like
so
everyone
good.
was enjoying the food.
I was starving by the time I was off the stage. I was starving, I was thirsty, and my feet hurt so bad, like all through the night. Like even after I took a shower and lay down in the bed, and I was like, oh God.
Well, it's not only physically demanding; it's very much emotionally demanding, and not in all my feels emotions, but you have to. When you're hosting an event, you have to turn yourself on. You have to put on that hat and then you wear that smile and be turned on to the event and the topic at hand for an extended period of time. Normally, in networking events, that's 5 minutes, and then you get a breather between. Then you go to the next person and you put that hat back on. And as a host, you don't get to take that hat off until the event's done.
Yeah, for sure. So, well, hopefully I can get somebody a little bit more charisma, I guess, for next year. And then I definitely want to some of the technical stuff. You know, I know I was trying to over prepare so that I could have time for the things that you couldn't plan for that were going to happen. Still, things happened that I couldn't. That was on the technical side. So.
Live and learn. I mean, we started out with
a
microphone that didn't work and two school desks, and now look at us. So, like you said, you gotta do it.
We get the chance to do this every week, though. This is a once a year thing, and so maybe have more events throughout the year and practice this out. Yeah, for sure. So we are already in the talks with some of the final panelists. They have a true crime podcast that's based on Arkansas crimes. That's pretty awesome, and so they're having their own launch party next month. Sorry.
Excellent.
So next month, and I'm gonna go to that. But we're kicking around some ideas for a true crime podcast festival for Arkansas, because it is happening everywhere else in the country, just not here.
Okay.
So that might be the next little mini event. Not as big as this one, of course, but something smaller for
definitely
more niche.
Yeah, well, that and it also is another opportunity to get traction, and it's an opportunity to share connections and community.
Yeah, exactly. And I think it's also a huge opportunity to bring in, other organizations that weren't attached to this, because I know you missed the final panel, but we were talking about true crime in Arkansas. Why is it important to have a podcast about this? And well, they're investigating these cold cases that have never been solved, and they were talking to the first season of the Burden podcast. They're talking to the daughter of a woman that was murdered and the crime was never solved, and they had a hunch of who it was, but both of them have worked in the Supreme Court at some point and had access to a lot of different things, and so they started their own investigation. And I asked them, I was like, well, does that mean that you guys have had history as private investigators? They said absolutely not. It's just journalism. So as being journalists, and you're investigating these stories and you're interviewing these people and you're bringing new evidence to the table, basically. And so if these cold cases, or if it's something that they can bring back up.
Well, only about 10%, I think. It's ridiculously low. Murders get solved.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of cold cases available.
Exactly.
And that closure is important to people. And being and law enforcement does as good a job as they can. This is nothing against them.
Yeah.
But sometimes there just isn't the evidence.
Right.
And people don't come forward. And it takes a little time and a little tenacity for someone to spend digging through files or interviewing and maybe a different perspective to be able to go, oh, wait a minute, here's something new.
Yeah.
And I think that's amazing.
Yeah, for sure. And every time I've told anybody about the panelists and all that stuff, and they're like, oh, who's going to be there, right, before the event? I can tell them, one's about business, and this is what we do, and this one's about just connecting people in the community and stuff. I'm like, oh, that's cool. And I tell them about the true crime that's based in Arkansas, and their eyes light up. They're like, ooh, that's the that's the thing, right?
We should change our topic.
Well, that's just the thing, right? It's kind of an easy sell. Look how many documentaries come out on Netflix every week. It's a new one about, something that happened. Some creepy dude did something creepy, and now we're going to make a
Back
full
in the day,
documentary.
Unsolved Mysteries.
Yep.
I was a loyal watcher.
Unsolved, of course. Yeah. I can't listen to that theme song at all. It's the creepiest theme song ever. But yeah, Tara loves that one. But it's it just interests us, and I think it's a lot to do with, well, these are things that have happened. If it's a true crime thing and based in Florida, right, and we're listening in Arkansas, it's like, oh, that's an interesting story. But when you talk about, well, this was one that happened in Arkansas, you're like, oh, wow, that's close to home, because you could.
I've been to that house.
Exactly, yeah. Or I lived in that town, or whatever. And 7 degrees of connectivity. You or your family member or somebody knew one of the family members that was involved there.
People
or
like connection.
Yes, they do.
So when I was in logistics, I was a third-party logistics provider, and people don't really know what that is. And they'd say, what do you do? And I'm like, this is what I do. And they're like, oh, well, I got a guy, my cousin's a truck driver. Do you know him?
Yeah.
No, I don't.
Right.
But people like that connection. People like to be able to say, I have an understanding of what you're saying because I've been to that house. I lived in that town. I know what my brother-in-law does that for a living or something. So being able to put that little personal touch to it, even though it is kind of creepy with the crime, it still is very engaging for an audience. Yeah,
for sure. I mean, and it hits on this, everybody wants that. Everybody wants to be not the close to home thing, but I mean, they want to have some sort of connectivity to it. Like you said, being, a few of our clients are people that that help, organizations that help people that are coming out of prison, that type of thing. And so talking to a lot of people that have been in Arkansas prison, there's so many that have talked about, or they bring up the West Memphis 3, right? Because they were in there when Jason Kelly and the rest of them were in prison waiting to be executed or serving a life sentence, and then when it happened, when they were let out because of new evidence that was found, Like they'll be like, "Oh yeah, I used to pass by that cell," or I talked to Jason a couple of times. Like in some way, them going to prison, they were connected to them somehow, and like got the real story from them. It's like you don't know what to believe or not, but like, they want to have a personal piece of investment in that because this is a big thing that happens, and it's on I don't know. It got a lot of attention, right? Yeah. A lot of immediate attention. We still talk about it today. So, yeah, I think when it's close to home, I think we wanted to be connected to it, but also like it makes us like I don't know, motivated to do something differently when there's an injustice that was served, or like maybe it's pretty obvious who a killer or kidnapper or whatever it was, what they did, but like police just dropped it, and so that happens. The case gets dropped, or because we have no evidence, or because it's the town of Arkansas. Right. The town of Arkansas politics got this guy off or something, and that happens. But yeah, so it's kind of an easy sell. It's a hard job. I mean, I'm not degrading that at all. The amount of journalism skills and investigations and I don't know if I would even have the bravery that they had to ask some of the investigators from those cases, you know what I mean, to be like, hey, you willing to talk about this again on the record? And it's like, I don't know if I'd do that. But they're like,
I think that to bring it all back to the beginning, that's the point, is having that connection in Arkansas podcasting is, people bringing people together so that they can have that, oh, well, I met the true crime guys, or I also have a podcast, or I have heard your podcast. Whatever that connection is sure, that's one thing. That was your big ta-da, having that particular panelist. But it also it gave more strings to the connection, more 6 years of separation. Yeah. And that's what the event was about, and that's what future events will be about, is not just promoting the idea, which is, to your point, it needs to sell on the true crime, but promoting the idea that we are all in this together. We all have something to bring to the table. When we talk about business in Arkansas, we're touching people. And it just the same way as if we're doing the investigative journalism on a cold case, we're doing the investigative journalism on running a business. Yeah. And all of that can be community. All that can be shared. We can touch more people in Arkansas through podcasting, and just like solving, not just like solving crimes, but similarly.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, and it's such easy to consume media. It's free. You can listen to it anytime you want to. It's on demand. It's free. You don't have to watch a video. You can just listen to it on your car, or you're brushing your teeth, or shaving your face, whatever you're doing. Washing the dishes, right?
People like having their ideas sparked. Yeah. And that's what we try to do. That's what the True Crime podcast does. They want to say, hey, let's get those brain cells going. Let's put them all together. There was a program a way ago, back in the olden days when I was old, or I was young, I'm old now, that they were there was research being done, and these researchers were tapping into your computer. You'd put a little thing on there, and it would run a gene sequence. And then, but you only did this little part. And then 50,000 other people also ran little parts. They utilized all these different little parts to put together to make the whole. And that's kind of where we are with the podcasting now, is that we're putting together the true crime and everything else. We're putting together all these little ideas. We're putting them in one place so that people can consume them. They can get their brains going. They can maybe add to the evidence found, or maybe improve their business to be able to provide the widget to the person who needs it. All of the things. We are a community of people, and finding ways to be more community is important.
It is. So, I think podcasting is a long, enduring life here. Yeah,
I think that it's growing. It's definitely. I said at the beginning, it's in its infancy. Even though it's been around for a long time, it's really just now starting to crawl. And before it was just sitting there like a baby going, oh, that's cute.
Now it's a 20-year-old. 20-year-old adult, and it's like, oh, this is how I walk. Okay, that's great, got you.
Hey, it
takes a while. Slow learners. No, it's the rest of us trying to adapt. But it's definitely not like a platform of the week, or like a program that comes out and it's the hot thing. I talked last night to somebody that had started their podcast because they got on Clubhouse. And they started talking on there and was like, you know what, I should record this and put it out. Yeah, and I was like, well, whatever happened to Clubhouse? And apparently it's still around, but nobody uses it anymore.
Right.
Well, people use it, but it's very, 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 very niche now. And so it's mostly for, it's kind of like how you use, if you talk to people in other countries, they prefer to use Telegram. Have you been
I know that one.
Yeah.
The people in other countries that I talk to, like WhatsApp is a big one.
Yeah, WhatsApp, Telegram, and then apparently they're using Clubhouse too. It's just an easy way for them to all communicate and talk to other people in other countries. And I was like, oh, that's a pretty cool use, you know. But I remember when it first came out, like everybody's like, this is gonna be the new thing, and they jumped on it. Like as soon as they heard about it, they tried to learn how to create their own rooms and then get people started and come in and talk about it. I tried it out. It wasn't for me.
I didn't try it out.
I don't like it.
I saw an article. I'm like, I don't need that.
Yeah.
Got so much going on. I don't need that.
Exactly. And it's not like you can play it back at any time. I guess now you can. There's a record feature, apparently. That's what they told me last night. But back then, it was like calling into the radio show type of thing, where it's like it only comes on at this one certain time, at this certain time of the day, and if you're doing anything else, then you're going to miss it.
Right.
It's like, well, I guess I just miss it because I've got other stuff I want to do.
So that sense of
Urgency,
yeah. But limited availability is actually not as much of a driving point as it used to be, because in this society that we're in today, if you miss it, there's 10 more things coming behind it.
Exactly.
And sure, you might miss that and that'll suck, but I'm going to get something new. There's always going to be things being lobbed at your head. So
Sure.
That's one of the reasons I like streaming, is because that people make the choice. They don't have to necessarily rearrange their life, but they still make the choice.
Right. Well, everything, I don't know. Most things are being captured, and you can find them anywhere on the internet, right?
I told my kids, like, do not do anything that you do not want on the nightly news, because somebody's recording somewhere.
Yeah, exactly. There are cameras everywhere.
I mean,
and
under your covers in your bed in your room at night in the dark, just go ahead and assume it's being recorded.
Not to be too conspiracy theorist or anything like that, but no, there are actual cameras everywhere, either on buildings or people. Every person who has a phone has a camera on them, and they don't ask you to sign a waiver. Thank you. A waiver form saying, "Hey, can I take your photo or video you and post you on the internet?"
Right.
They're not doing that.
To see.
Yeah. It's just free game. Yep. So don't do anything you're not supposed to.
Yeah. So when you're picking your nose in public, guess what?
That's right. That's your Sunday best. Okay. Well, anything else you wanted to add to this one?
No, I think
Did you learn anything last night that you think we should apply to this podcast?
Did I learn anything that we should apply to this podcast? I learned so much, and nothing that I can really dial down. Still trying to assimilate all the information. There was so much available last night. So many great people. It was a lot of fun. I
can't wait to take the audio and chop it up into sections and be able to listen to it all over again. You know what I mean?
You were in the moment trying to make sure that the next person was going to be available and that the
But I
mics were
heard
on.
things and I'm like, man, I really wish I would have took notes. Oh, it's getting recorded. I'll just take notes later and implement that.
Yes.
So I've heard of different techniques and different programs that they were using, and even like just watching them present themselves on stage, you get a feel for, how their presence is. Like Bo, man, that guy's got so much personality. It was like exploded all over the room, and that was the first thing he said when he got to the stage. Let's wake the room up a little bit, and then like just took off. And I'm like, oh god, this guy's a
charismatic entertainer, right?
Very, very charismatic entertainer. Yes, absolutely.
And some people were like, hey, and chill. And you're like,
yeah.
Okay.
Yes, like very quiet. Like Isolate was very quiet and reserved and talked like this the entire time. It's like I can't really hear you. Can you hold the microphone to your phone? So, but everybody had great things to say. So I can't wait to go in there and I have to balance out the difference between like the real quiet speakers and the really loud boisterous speakers. And let's find an even ground here so we can listen to all of this without like blasting your ears when you listen to it with headphones. So anyway, that's my struggles.
Hey, IT, technology, it's everything.
It's the tech. Doing it again next year, planning on it. Yeah.
I'm excited.
Okay.
Hopefully it can be helpful and maybe even be more a part of it.
It should. I'm ready to see what the conversations are, after this. And just see where it goes.
Definitely.
Yeah, for sure.
Enough to share because I don't talk to anybody.
Yeah.
I feel like I live in my little hole.
If you are watching this on YouTube or on Spotify, then you can also find us as an audio version on any of the audio podcast catchers, from Apple to Google to the Podbeans and all this stuff.
I will say,
Yes.
for those who are thinking about doing podcasting, when I was speaking to people about the podcast and they would say, oh, where are you hosted? And I said everywhere, just like we're talking right now.
Yeah.
They would almost exclusively go to Spotify to look it up.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, it's the number one besides, YouTube just overtook it. But I mean, like, as far as like just audio podcast, Spotify is number one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Spotify.
But strangely enough, I pay for Spotify. I have the premium version. I only use it for music. I don't listen to it for
anything else.
for podcasts. Yeah. Because I don't know. I don't like the UI for podcasts.
I haven't played with it much. I'm very monogamous with. I used to use Apple Podcasts, and they made a change, and it irritated me, so I switched. And now I'm like, okay, all my podcasts are here.
Apple is so bad about their UI. Yeah. The UI is.
So I use Overcast, and I like it, and I don't see any reason to change at this point.
Yeah.
If they do something that irritates me, sure, I'll find something else.
There you go.
But changing is, I mean, I like to know where the buttons are. I know how fast it skips, and I know all the things, and I'm happy with that.
Right.
But maybe I'm not using Spotify for a podcast because I'm old.
No, I don't think it's that at all. It's just, I don't know. Like, it's either going to vibe with you or it's not.
Right.
Like, you're okay with using the way that it's laid out, or you're not. But like, I want to, if I'm keeping up with the podcast, I want the latest episode. As soon as I open that app of whatever I'm following it on, I want the newest episode to be right there, so I can just hit play. Just like YouTube is. You subscribe to a channel, and every time they have a new video that uploads, every time you go into YouTube, that's going to be one of the thumbnails that's laid out for you, and you're just like, okay, you just click it and listen to it. I don't want to have to dig in there and be like, oh, what was the name of that show again? And have to go, it's like go into your album collection and trying to find which one it was that you were, I can't remember. So yeah, but no matter what platform you're using, we accept all 5-star reviews on any of them.
Absolutely.
Yes.
And if there's a platform you want us to be on that we're not, hey, drop us a comment.
We'll try to figure out how to make it work.
Absolutely. We'll make a whole episode out of it.
So the likes, the subscribes,
the shares,
the little alarm bell lets you know whenever we have a new episode come out.
Yep. I was going to say whenever we make a mistake and don't record the audio. No, I'm kidding.
Yes. Don't say that. Like, we were talking like this whole hour. Like,
that's
didn't
funny.
record any of it. Yeah. So we will be releasing the video and the audio and all that from everything that happened last night across social media and our ARKAST website and all that. So
I look forward to seeing it.
yeah,
I was really
maybe even play your
upset.
interview here.
Who, mine?
Yeah, yours.
That wasn't. Really?
Yeah.
That's weird. Okay. I'm interested in seeing some of the stuff that I missed, but kids.
Yeah.
Oh, so anyways, share, comment,
Yes.
etc.
All those. Yes. And if there's something we haven't covered yet that had been on your mind, then just let us know in the comments, or just let us know by contacting us. Always look into the description of each podcast episode, and our contact information is there. So until next time, you want to say bye?
Bye.
And keep your business healthy.